Colossal stone monuments rise on every continent, whispering a secret from the dawn of time. These ancient structures, separated by vast oceans and thousands of years, share an uncanny architectural language that hints at a forgotten connection. This is the profound mystery of the global spread of megalithic knowledge before any known cultural contact. By the end of this journey, you will see the hidden threads that may bind humanity's oldest stories into a single, astonishing narrative. How could hunter-gatherers in Turkey erect a complex temple older than the wheel, while on a remote Pacific island, a civilization moved statues weighing as much as 70 elephants? What single insight could explain why cultures across the globe chose to build with such impossibly large stones? How does the story of our past change when we listen to what these stones are trying to tell us? The sheer scale of these monuments can almost feel alien, but their true power lies in the human story they tell. A megalith is far more than a simple big rock. It is a profound statement of ambition carved in stone. These immense, often unshaped slabs were the building blocks of our ancestors' grandest visions, assembled into temples, tombs, and calendars that have endured for millennia. What truly defines megalithic culture is not just size, but a specific set of skills and intentions. We see a signature style known as Cyclopean masonry, where colossal stones are fitted together with impossible precision, often without a speck of mortar. The joints are so tight that you cannot slide a piece of paper between them. Think of the multi-ton stones at sites like Sacsayhuaman in Peru, interlocking in a dizzying, zigzag pattern that has withstood centuries of earthquakes. This was not simple stacking, it was a form of three-dimensional stone puzzle, engineered for eternity. Then there is the puzzle of movement, the logistics of transporting blocks weighing as much as small mountains across rivers, up hills, and through dense forests. How did they manage such a feat without the wheel or modern machinery? And finally, these structures often whisper of the stars. Their doorways, corridors, and standing stones are frequently aligned with the solstice sun, the equinox moon, or specific constellations, turning the entire landscape into a cosmic clock. This combination of colossal scale, masterful precision, and celestial awareness is the unique fingerprint of the megalithic mind. By understanding this specific definition, a common thread begins to emerge from the tapestry of our distant past, one that connects the ambitions of cultures who should have never known each other's names. The most common explanation offered by scholars is one of independent invention. This theory, known as polygenesis, proposes that different human societies, facing similar fundamental challenges and possessing similar cognitive abilities, simply arrived at the same brilliant solution separately. Imagine isolated cultures looking up at the same sky, feeling the same human drive to create something permanent, and realizing that enormous stones were the most durable material available. The logic seems sound. After all, these constructions appear across vast stretches of time. The dolmens of Europe, those iconic stone table tombs, were largely built thousands of years before the Great Huacas, the sacred platforms and temples of the Andes. There are also clear stylistic differences. A Scottish stone circle feels distinct from a Polynesian marae, just as a Japanese coffin burial mound is visually worlds apart from a massive moai platform on Rapa Nui. This variation seems to support the idea of local innovation, of cultures developing their own unique architectural dialects, even while using a similar grammar of stone. Yet, when we look closer, the plot thickens considerably. How do we explain the uncanny repetition of specific, complex engineering principles? cultures that supposedly had no contact independently mastered the art of cyclopean masonry, fitting multi-ton blocks together with that same breathtaking, paper-thin precision. They separately devised methods for moving colossal weights across impossible landscapes, and most puzzling of all, they repeatedly aligned their structures to the same precise celestial events. The winter solstice sunrise, the cyclical dance of the Pleiades star cluster, these were not just general observations of the sky. They were specific, calculated alignments encoded into stone, appearing again and again in monuments separated by entire oceans. This goes beyond a simple, universal need for shelter or even a tomb. This points to a shared, sophisticated knowledge system, a specific school of thought for interacting with the cosmos through architecture. The theory of independent invention answers many questions, but the echoing similarities left behind in granite and basalt whisper of a deeper, more mysterious connection, one that challenges our entire understanding of the ancient world. Yet the stones themselves seem to challenge the idea of total isolation. A radically different explanation, known as the Diffusionist Hypothesis, dares to suggest that this was not a case of multiple inventions, but a single, spreading idea. This theory posits that the complex knowledge of megalithic construction was not independently born in dozens of cradles, but diffused from one original source, carried across the world by ancient, intrepid seafarers long before our history books say such voyages were possible. What if the same blueprint for building with the Earth and the stars was shared among cultures we see as separate? The evidence for this lies in the eerie repetition of highly specific techniques. Look at the principle of corbelling, a method for constructing a roof or arch by stacking stones in successively projecting layers until they meet at the top. We find this identical, sophisticated solution in the burial chambers of Ireland's Newgrange, in the mysterious underground temples of Malta, and in the pyramidal structures of the Maya. Even more telling is the global signature of polygonal masonry, where massive, irregularly shaped stones are carved to fit together in a complex, jigsaw-like wall. This is not a simple or obvious way to build, yet it appears with stunning similarity in the cyclopean walls of Sacsayhuaman in Peru, in the foundations of ancient Egyptian temples, and in the ruins of Okinawa, Japan. How could such a distinct and non-intuitive style emerge spontaneously in cultures separated by hemispheres? This persistent architectural echo has led some researchers to propose the existence of a master builder culture, a lost civilization of unparalleled seafaring and engineering skill that disseminated this knowledge across the globe. The logistical hurdles for this theory are immense, demanding a radical rethinking of ancient maritime capabilities and a rewriting of established timelines. But when faced with a chorus of stones all speaking the same architectural language, we are compelled to ask a profound question. Could the world's oceans have been a highway, not a barrier, connecting the first architects of our planet? But if we are to trace a possible origin point for this global phenomenon, our journey begins not with a city or a tomb, but with a hill in modern-day Turkey. Göbekli Tepe is a name that echoes through archaeology, a site so revolutionary it forced a complete rewrite of human history. Its discovery revealed a temple complex of staggering scale and artistry, built over 11,000 years ago. That is 6,000 years older than Stonehenge, a time so deep in our past that we are still grappling with its implications. Here, hunter-gatherers, people we once believed were solely focused on day-to-day survival, carved and erected massive Each pillar is a masterpiece, intricately engraved with a menagerie of animals, from foxes and cranes to fearsome predators. The sheer labor involved is almost incomprehensible. Quarrying, transporting, and sculpting these multi-ton stones required a level of social organization and symbolic thought that scholars never attributed to pre-agricultural societies. This discovery turned the traditional narrative on its head. The long-held story was that farming came first, providing the surplus food, and settled communities that then allowed for the luxury of complex religion and monumental architecture. Göbekli Tepe suggests the opposite, that a shared spiritual vision may have been the very catalyst that brought people together, inspiring the cooperation needed to build, and perhaps even prompting the shift toward agriculture to support the workers at the site. So where does this leave our search for a source of megalithic knowledge? Göbekli Tepe stands as a powerful candidate for a primordial wellspring, a place where the art of building with meaning in stone was first codified. Its T-shaped pillars, some argue, became a symbolic archetype, a blueprint that could have traveled. Yet its immense age is also its greatest puzzle. If this was the source, how could its influence possibly span the thousands of years and thousands of miles to reach the later monuments of Europe, the Americas, and the Pacific? Was Göbekli Tepe the lone point of ignition for a global fire, or was it simply the earliest and most brilliant flash of a light that was appearing again and again all across the ancient world? While the stones of Göbekli Tepe whisper of a forgotten dawn, another monument sings a precise celestial song. On the wind-swept Salisbury Plain in England, Stonehenge stands as a testament to a different kind of genius, one that measured the heavens themselves. This iconic circle is far more than a ring of weathered stones. It is a colossal astronomical instrument carved from granite. Its builders aligned the massive Sarsen trilithons, those iconic gateways of stone, with breathtaking accuracy. The central axis points directly to the sunrise on the summer solstice, when the sun appears to rise directly over the heel stone, bathing the inner circle in light. But the alignments go far deeper, tracking the more complex 18.6-year cycle of the moon, marking its extreme rising and setting points on the horizon. This was not simple stargazing. It was a sophisticated predictive calendar, a stone computer that could foretell celestial events generations in advance. This astronomical precision is matched only by the sheer audacity of its construction. The largest Sarsen stones weigh over 25 tons each, dragged from quarries 20 miles away. Yet the true mystery lies with the smaller, inner circle of blue stones. Geological analysis reveals these stones were transported from the Preseli Hills in Wales, a staggering distance of over 150 miles. How did a Neolithic culture move 80 1 to 4 ton blocks across rugged terrain and treacherous rivers? The effort speaks of a powerful, unifying purpose, a cultural imperative so strong it compelled generations to undertake this monumental logistical feat. The selection of this specific stone from a distant, sacred landscape hints that the very material was part of the site's power. Stonehenge was not built in a single lifetime, but over more than 15 centuries. This was not a single project, but a sustained tradition, a sacred blueprint passed down through countless generations. Each phase, from the initial earthworks and aubrey holes to the final arrangement of sarsens and bluestones, shows a continuous refinement of a grand vision. Its ultimate purpose likely wove together ceremony, ancestral veneration, and high science into a single tapestry of meaning. It was a place where the cosmos touched the earth, where the rhythms of the sky were mirrored in the rituals of the people. And this deep understanding of cosmic order, encoded in aligned stone, is not unique to Salisbury Plain. We find the same principles at work in the Sun Dagger of Choco Canyon, the precise solstitial alignments of the Göbekli Circle in Germany, and the ancient observatories of Egypt. This recurring pattern of turning entire landscapes into celestial clocks suggests a shared, fundamental knowledge, a universal language of the stars that our ancestors, from the British Isles to the American Southwest, all learned to speak. Far out in the blue expanse of the Mediterranean, a different kind of megalithic mystery rises from the limestone of the Maltese Islands. Here, on this small archipelago, stand the Ġgantija temples, complexes so ancient they predate even the Great Pyramids of Egypt by over 1,000 years. Their name, meaning giant's tower, echoes the local legend that a giantess built them while carrying her child, a story that hints at the awe these structures have inspired for millennia. The reality is no less astounding. These are not simple stone circles, but elaborate architectural complexes built on a cloverleaf plan, a series of curved, interconnected chambers that create a sacred, labyrinthine space. The builders used colossal coralline limestone blocks, some weighing many tons, to create walls that curve inward, a sophisticated technique that has allowed these temples to stand for over 5,000 years. Their very location is a crucial piece of the puzzle. Malta is an island reachable only by sea. The presence of such advanced monolithic structures here is a powerful testament to the builders' identity. They were not just farmers or priests, they were master mariners. The construction of Ġgantija and other temples like Hypogeum and Mnajdra required a society capable of organizing complex labor, but it also demanded the ability to navigate the open ocean. This implies that these people were part of a wider Mediterranean world, transporting not just goods, but their most profound cultural ideas across the waves. The temples themselves confirm this role as centers of deep knowledge. Specific corridors and doorways within Mnajdra are precisely aligned so that the equinox sunrise illuminates specific stones, while the solstice sunbeams pierce deep into the inner chambers. This celestial choreography, mirroring the astronomical alignments found at Stonehenge and Göbekli Tepe, suggests the Maltese temples were more than local places of worship. They were likely hubs of ritual and learning, nodes in a potential network of ancient idea exchange. Could the sailors who built these island sanctuaries have been the very agents of diffusion, carrying the blueprints for megalithic science and stellar observation to distant shores? The silent, sun-warmed stones of Malta pose a compelling question, not just about who built them, but about who they might have spoken to across the vast, connecting sea. High in the thin air of the Bolivian Andes, where the sky feels close enough to touch, the stones of Tiwanaku tell a story of impossible precision. This city, flourishing over 1,000 years before the Inca Empire, is a symphony in stone, a place where architecture meets astronomy in a breathtaking display of knowledge. Its builders assembled multi-ton blocks of andesite, a stone harder than granite, fitting them together with a geometric perfection that defies simple explanation. The joints are so seamless, so intricately interlocked, that they appear to be a single, continuous surface. This was not merely construction, it was a form of high art, a language of stability and power written into the very foundations of the city. One of its most iconic features, the Gateway of the Sun, is a single, monumental block carved with an intricate frieze often interpreted as a complex calendar. At its center stands the figure of Viracocha, a central deity holding staffs, with 48 other figures appearing to run toward him in reverence. This portal is more than a doorway. It is a cosmological map, a stone tablet encoding a vision of the cosmos and the place of humanity within it. But the true genius of Tiwanaku's builders is revealed in the subtle details of their engineering. They employed a signature style using H-shaped blocks, perfectly carved and evenly spaced to anchor massive walls. They also mastered the tenon joint, a stone knob carved to fit perfectly into a matching socket, a technique that allowed them to securely fasten enormous stones together. This level of sophistication does not appear to evolve from crude beginnings at the site. Instead, Tiwanaku's most advanced megalithic work seems to arrive almost fully formed, as if the knowledge was imported from a master builder's library. The sheer scale of the sandstone slabs at the Pumapunku complex, some weighing over 100 tons and cut with machine-like accuracy, only deepens the mystery. Where did this advanced school of construction come from, and how does its signature style of geometric precision and complex joinery echo techniques found in the Cyclopean walls of Peru and the temples of the Mediterranean? Tiwanaku stands as a cosmic city, a testament to a forgotten chapter of human ingenuity whose architectural whispers seem to resonate across continents and oceans. Beneath the sunlit temples of Malta lies a world turned inside out. The Saflieni Hypogeum is not a structure built upward, but a sacred space carved downward, an entire subterranean necropolis hewn from the living limestone over 5,000 years ago. This is not a simple cave or a tomb, but a breathtaking inversion of the megalithic temple, a complex spanning 3 intricate levels that descend deep into the earth. Its architects replicated the entire language of above-ground construction underground. They carved stone to mimic wooden beams, sculpted pillars from the bedrock, and created ceremonial chambers with the same curved, cloverleaf plans found in the Ġgantija temples above. This reveals a startling truth. Megalithic knowledge was not just about assembling stones under the open sky. It was a complete architectural philosophy, one that could be applied with equal mastery to the world below our feet. Within this silent, labyrinthine complex, certain chambers possess a mysterious acoustic property. Sound resonates and amplifies in specific rooms, with certain frequencies seeming to travel through the very stone. A voice spoken softly in one chamber can be heard with perfect clarity in another distant room, an effect that would have transformed rituals into profound, immersive experiences. Scholars suggest these were oracle rooms where the interplay of sound and sacred space could create a powerful sense of connection to something beyond the physical world. The Hypogeum, a place of final rest and deep ceremony, demonstrates that this ancient tradition understood the power of environment to shape consciousness. They were not merely stacking stones, they were engineering atmosphere, manipulating both space and sound to create portals for spiritual encounter. This sophisticated understanding of how to work with the earth itself, to carve order from chaos and imbue it with meaning, points to a cultural tradition of immense depth and maturity. It suggests a school of thought so well established that its principles could be applied anywhere, from a windswept plain to the very heart of the rock. The existence of such a complex, hidden from the sun for millennia, challenges us to expand our search. If this knowledge could flourish so completely underground, how far across the oceans might its echoes have truly traveled? While the Hypogeum explored the power of sound and the world beneath, another site speaks in the silent, stark language of lines upon the land. In the coastal region of Brittany, France, the Carnac stones unfold across the landscape in a spectacle of sheer numbers. Here, over 3,000 individual standing stones, known as menhirs, are arranged in long, precise rows that stretch for miles. Walking among these ancient sentinels is a humbling experience, a feeling of moving through a grand, geometric forest planted by a forgotten hand. The scale is almost beyond comprehension, a monumental project that would have required the coordinated effort of a sophisticated and highly organized society for generations. Why would a community invest so much labor in such an immense and permanent arrangement? The purpose of the Carnac alignments remains one of archaeology's great debates. Some researchers propose they served as territorial markers, defining the sacred land of a powerful clan. Others see them as a processional pathway for ceremonial walks, a physical journey with spiritual significance. But the most compelling theory suggests these lines were far more than symbolic borders. The specific arrangement of the stones, their careful placement in relation to the horizon, points to a function of high celestial observation. It is possible the entire complex acted as a colossal astronomical computer, its alignments allowing ancient priests to track the complex cycles of the moon and even predict eclipses. This idea transforms the field from a simple collection of stones into a dynamic instrument for reading the cosmos. The linear precision seen at Carnac is not an isolated phenomenon. We find echoes of this same architectural grammar in the long, parallel earthworks of the Hopewell culture in North America and in the mysterious stone rows of Dartmoor in England. This recurring theme of organizing the landscape with straight lines and parallel rows across vast distances and seemingly unconnected cultures hints at a universal impulse. It suggests a shared understanding that by imposing a geometric order upon the earth, humanity could better comprehend the orderly movements of the heavens above. The true meaning of Carnac may be lost to the centuries, but its silent, marching rows continue to challenge us, asking if we can decipher the ancient language written not in words, but in stone and alignment. Beneath the clear, blue waters off Japan's westernmost island, the ocean floor holds a secret that challenges everything we think we know about the ancient world. The Yonaguni monument is a sprawling complex of massive stone terraces, descending like a grand staircase into the deep. Its surfaces are marked by sharp, 90-degree angles, perfect parallel lines, and what appear to be intricately carved staircases and wide processional pathways. These formations lie submerged, a silent, sunken landscape that only reveals itself to divers. The central question surrounding Yonaguni is as profound as the ocean that conceals it. Is this a spectacular feat of natural geology, or is it the work of human hands, a megalithic complex lost to the rising seas? Geology offers compelling arguments, pointing to the region's unique sandstone, which can fracture along natural plains, creating surprisingly geometric shapes. Powerful currents could have eroded the rock into these striking forms over millennia. Yet, the sheer concentration of seemingly architectural features in one location gives even skeptics pause. We see what looks like a monolithic platform, a towering structure that resembles a stage or altar. There are twin pillars that appear placed to mark an entrance, and a trench that runs with an unnerving straightness for dozens of feet. If even one of these elements is confirmed to be artificial, the implications are staggering. It would mean that a previously unknown culture, with the ambition and skill to shape the very bedrock, thrived here over 10,000 years ago, a time when vast ice sheets still locked away the ocean's water, and this monument would have stood proudly on dry land. This would not merely be another archaeological site. It would be a sunken continent of the mind, forcing a complete re-evaluation of human progress in the Pacific. Could Yonaguni be a lost link, a potential bridge connecting the megalithic traditions of ancient Japan, with its own stone circles and burial mounds, to the monumental builders of other distant shores? The debate continues, a quiet tension between the relentless power of nature and the persistent, haunting signature of human genius, both written on the same sunken stones. The legend of the Cyclopes was born from stone itself. In the rugged highlands of ancient Greece, the citadel of Mycenae is encircled by walls of such staggering scale that later generations could not fathom their human origin. They were deemed the work of the one-eyed giants, the Cyclopes, for who else could lift limestone boulders so immense? This is the archetypal Cyclopean masonry, a style defined by colossal, irregular blocks fitted together with a masterful, puzzle-like precision. The sheer weight and power of these walls were not merely for show, they were a formidable defensive system, a statement of invincibility carved into the landscape for a Bronze Age warrior culture. The Mycenaeans were a society organized for conflict and conquest, and their architecture reflects this, transforming the ancient principles of megalithic construction into instruments of military might and royal authority. Yet, the specific engineering signature is what truly captivates. Look at the famous Lion Gate, the main entrance to the citadel. The massive lintel stone above the gateway is a single, monstrous block, and the walls to either side are built with that same distinctive polygonal style, where each stone, though uniquely shaped, locks perfectly with its neighbor. This is not a simple, logical way to build a wall. It is a complex, deliberate technique, and it is here, at this Bronze Age fortress in Greece, that we find a direct architectural echo of sites thousands of miles away. The same polygonal, jigsaw-like pattern defines the sacred walls of Sacsayhuaman in Peru and the foundations of ancient sites in Japan. How can we explain this repetition of such a specific, non-intuitive building style across continents? The Mycenaean walls demonstrate a crucial adaptation of a core megalithic principle. The same knowledge that created celestial observatories and subterranean temples was here harnessed by a centralized, powerful state for a new purpose, defense, and the projection of power. This reveals the fluidity of this ancient science. It was not a rigid dogma, but a versatile toolkit. It could serve the stars or secure a kingdom, proving that this forgotten knowledge was not just about spirituality, but about practical, monumental mastery that could be tailored to the unique needs of any culture, anywhere in the world. Across the endless blue of the Pacific, the Polynesian people achieved the impossible. They did not just cross the ocean, they mastered it, navigating a watery expanse covering nearly a third of our planet to discover and settle thousands of isolated islands. Their vessels, magnificent double-hulled canoes, were their keys to the world, carrying families, plants, and animals to create new lives on distant shores. And on those shores, they left a permanent mark, building with stone in a way that echoes the global megalithic tradition. These were the Ahu and Mari, imposing stone platforms that served as the sacred and social hearts of their communities. The Mari of central Polynesia were elaborate courtyards, defined by upright stones and platforms constructed with precisely fitted blocks, often without mortar. These were places of ceremony, of community gathering, and of connection to the ancestors. The effort involved was immense. Stones were frequently quarried and transported over difficult terrain, sometimes from one side of an island to the other, a testament to a shared, powerful motivation. The most iconic of these structures are the Ahu of Rapa Nui, Easter Island, the colossal platforms upon which the mysterious Moai statues stand. These are not simple piles of rock, they are complex, engineered foundations built with massive, carefully shaped stones that interlock to support the immense weight of the statues. This parallel is where the mystery deepens profoundly. Here was a culture that possessed two forms of advanced knowledge that seemed to go hand in hand: a deep understanding of celestial navigation for traversing the ocean, and a sophisticated tradition of megalithic construction for building their sacred landscapes. Their stargazing was not passive. It was a precise science that allowed them to memorize the star paths between islands, to read the subtle patterns of swells and clouds, and to voyage with purpose across thousands of miles of open water. If they could carry the coconut and the taro plant across the sea, could they not also carry an idea? The simultaneous development of open ocean voyaging and monumental stonework presents a compelling case. It suggests that the Pacific was not a series of isolated ponds, but a single, connected highway. The Polynesians demonstrate that the ocean could have been a conduit, not a barrier, for the spread of a foundational architectural knowledge. Their legacy challenges us to see the ancient world as a network of seafaring cultures, capable of sharing the deepest blueprints of their civilization from one island chain to another, long before the first European ship ever took to the waves. Rising from a shallow lagoon in the remote Pacific, the city of Nan Madol appears as a mirage of dark stone and shimmering water. This is not a city built on land, but a network of nearly 100 artificial islands, each one a platform painstakingly constructed upon a coral reef. The entire complex is crisscrossed by a series of canals, earning it the name the Venice of the Pacific, but the true wonder of Nan Madol lies in its building material. The entire city is assembled from colossal, prismatic logs of basalt. These are not rough, unshaped boulders. They are naturally formed geometric columns, some weighing up to 50 tons, stacked horizontally like a colossal pile of firewood to form walls that soar over 25 feet high. The precision is staggering, a kind of crystalline architecture that feels both organic and impossibly deliberate. Local oral histories are filled with awe, telling of two powerful magician architects who flew the massive stones through the air from a distant quarry, placing them gently into position. While we may interpret this as legend, it speaks to a profound truth recognized by the descendants. The construction methods seem to defy all conventional logic. The reality was a monumental feat of engineering and logistics. The basalt columns were quarried from the other side of the island, requiring teams of workers to extract these multi-ton logs, transport them through dense jungle, and then float them across the lagoon on rafts, all before the back-breaking task of stacking them into stable, soaring walls began. The sheer scale of the labor concentrated in such a small, isolated location is almost beyond comprehension. This was the ceremonial and political center of the Sordalor dynasty, a place of immense power and spiritual significance, yet its architectural style is a complete outlier. Nothing else in the surrounding islands, or indeed in the wider Pacific, looks quite like it. Its use of prismatic basalt columns is unique, a local innovation born from the specific geology of the island. Yet the core principle is deeply familiar. It is megalithic. The ambition to reshape the environment with colossal stone to create a permanent, awe-inspiring center of power places Nan Madol firmly within the same family of global monuments. Its very existence in such a remote corner of the ocean forces a difficult question. Was this the brilliant, independent invention of an isolated island culture, pushed to a unique expression by the materials at hand? Or does the ghost of a shared, ancient blueprint linger here, adapted to a new world of coral and sea, whispering of a time when the Pacific was a highway for the most profound ideas humanity ever conceived? Perhaps the most persuasive argument for a shared blueprint lies in a specific stone fitting technique, one that appears with uncanny similarity across the ancient world. This is polygonal masonry, the art of shaping massive stones into complex geometric forms with multiple, interlocking sides. Imagine trying to assemble a colossal jigsaw puzzle where each piece is a block of granite weighing several tons. The builders would carefully carve each stone to have unique angles and contours, fitting it perfectly against its neighbors. The result is a wall where no two stones are the same, yet they all lock together into a single, incredibly resilient structure, often without a single drop of mortar. The advantage of this method is pure genius, especially in regions prone to earthquakes. A rigid, straight wall will crack and crumble when the ground shakes. But a wall built like a polygonal puzzle can flex and shift, the stones grinding and settling against each other without collapsing. It is a self-stabilizing system, an ancient form of seismic engineering that has allowed these walls to stand for thousands of years. Now consider the statistical improbability. This is not a simple or obvious way to build. Why would cultures separated by entire oceans and millennia independently arrive at this same highly complex solution? We see it in the breathtaking zigzag walls of Sacsayhuaman in Peru, where stones fit with such precision that the joints are virtually invisible. We find it in the foundational walls of the Roman colony at Cosa in Italy, and again in the stone chambers of ancient Japanese tombs known as kafan. For each culture to separately invent this specific, non-intuitive style of construction seems an extraordinary coincidence. It points toward a different possibility, that this was a specialized technique, a piece of advanced knowledge that was part of a master builder's toolkit. The echoing geometry in these walls suggests a common teacher, a forgotten school of thought that understood how to make stone dance with the earth's movements, a secret of stability that was simply too good to be forgotten. This shared cosmic vision found its ultimate expression in stone. Across the globe, the same celestial events triggered moments of architectural magic. At Chichen Itza during the equinox, the setting sun transforms the Great Pyramid of Kukulkan into a slithering serpent of light and shadow, a spectacle of calculated precision. In the American Southwest, a dagger of sunlight pierces a spiral petroglyph at Choco Canyon only on the summer solstice. These were not happy accidents. They were the result of generations of patient observation, of tracking the sun's slow migration along the horizon, the moon's complex 18.6-year cycle, and the steady march of specific stars. To then encode these subtle cycles into the very fabric of a monument required a profound synthesis of knowledge, blending the roles of priest, astronomer, and master engineer into one. Why was this cosmic connection so vital to so many? It points to a universal human need to find order in the cosmos, to synchronize human rituals with the celestial rhythms that govern the seasons, the rains, and the very passage of time. This was high science in service of survival and spirituality. The winter solstice was not just a day on a calendar, it was a moment of collective hope, a celebration of the sun's return, and a ceremony that may have been essential for ensuring the next harvest. The consistent, specific focus on solar and lunar extremes reveals a shared intellectual framework, a foundational belief that the sky was a grand, readable text, and that humanity's place was to build earthly mirrors to its divine order. When a culture in England and a culture in Mexico both choose to mark the exact same solar event with a massive, engineered structure, it suggests they were asking the same profound questions about their world. They were speaking the same architectural language, a universal grammar of the heavens written in aligned stone, suggesting a connection far deeper than mere coincidence. This conventional timeline of history with its isolated continents begins to fracture when we look out to sea. For generations, the narrative insisted that vast oceans were impermeable barriers until the age of European sails. Yet a quiet revolution in archaeology and daring modern experiments have completely overturned this idea. The journey of the Kon-Tiki raft, built with only materials and techniques available to ancient South Americans, successfully crossed the Pacific, proving that such voyages were not just possible but achievable. Decades later, the Polynesian voyaging canoe Hokulea accomplished an even greater feat, using traditional wayfinding methods to navigate across thousands of miles of open ocean without a single modern instrument. These were not just adventurous stunts, they were living proof that our ancestors possessed a profound understanding of wind, current, and star, a maritime science that allowed them to treat the sea as a highway, not a wall. These ancient mariners were far more than explorers. They were the internet of the prehistoric world, carrying not only themselves but the very blueprints of civilization. They transported crops like the sweet potato, which originated in the Andes but was found across Polynesia long before Columbus. They carried language with linguistic echoes found in distant lands, and they left a subtle genetic trail in the people they encountered. If they could transport food staples and family lineages across the globe, is it so difficult to believe they also carried an idea as powerful and useful as megalithic engineering? The same culture that could memorize the star paths for a voyage from Tahiti to Hawaii certainly had the capacity to convey the principles of celestial alignment, seismic-resistant polygonal walls, and the symbolic power of Cyclopean stone. This does not diminish the genius of local cultures, but rather places them within a vibrant, interconnected world. The Phoenicians, master traders of the Mediterranean, are known to have circumnavigated Africa. The Polynesians populated the world's largest ocean. Who is to say there were not other, now forgotten seafaring peoples, whose wooden ships have long since returned to the earth, leaving only the stones they inspired as silent witnesses to their journeys? The ocean was not an empty void, but a connective tissue, and these early sailors were the neurons firing across a global brain, sharing the most profound knowledge of their time. The stones and stars are not the only voices calling out from our shared past. A deeper, more intimate echo resonates in the very stories our ancestors told and the words they used to tell them. Across the globe, from the Epic of Gilgamesh in Mesopotamia to the Popol Vuh of the Maya, we find the same narrative archetypes repeating with uncanny similarity. A great, world-altering flood sent by displeased gods, a civilizing hero who brings the gifts of knowledge, agriculture, and law to humanity, a lost golden age, a time of primordial peace and prosperity that was somehow lost. These are not just universal tales born from common fears and hopes. Their specific convergence around the very themes of creation, destruction, and rebirth is what makes them so compelling, especially when these stories are often anchored to the locations of ancient megalithic centers. The legends surrounding these sites frequently speak of gods, giants, or magical beings who built them in a single night or with the aid of supernatural power. These are not literal histories, but they feel like cultural memories, fragmented and mythologized over millennia, of a time when such monumental construction was indeed possible. The very act of building with colossal stone may have been the catalyst for these myths, a real-world event so transformative it etched itself into the foundational stories of cultures oceans apart. This narrative connection extends into the realm of symbolic language. Why does the symbol of the spiral, representing the cycle of life, death, and rebirth, appear with such frequency on the stones of Newgrange in Ireland, on pottery in ancient Greece, and in the rock art of the American Southwest? How did the powerful image of the feathered or plumed serpent, a symbol of divine wisdom and the union of earth and sky, become a central deity figure for both the Maya of Mesoamerica and for pre-Incan cultures in the Andes? Linguists also trace the faint outlines of possible ancient connections. Certain core words, particularly those for family members like mother and father, or for fundamental concepts, show surprising similarities across language families that are supposedly separated by tens of thousands of years. While these parallels can be explained by the fundamental wiring of the human brain, their persistent appearance alongside the physical evidence of megalithic sites suggests a different possibility. Perhaps these shared myths and symbols are not just independent inventions, but the scattered pages of a single ancestral storybook. They could be the surviving fragments of a common heritage, a primordial worldview that was carried along the same routes as the knowledge of celestial alignment and polygonal masonry. These stories and symbols, passed down through countless generations around campfires and in ceremonies, may be the most human evidence we have of a deep, forgotten connection, a whisper on the wind that predates all written history. These timelines, scattered across millennia, form one of the most persistent arguments against a shared connection. The sheer span of time separating these sites is staggering. Göbekli Tepe's pillars were raised over 11,000 years ago, while the Great Moai of Rapa Nui were being carved just a few centuries before European contact. This disjointed chronology, with monuments flourishing and falling into silence at wildly different eras, seems to neatly support the theory of independent invention. How could a culture in prehistoric Turkey possibly influence a society on a remote Pacific island 10,000 years later? The logical conclusion appears to be that they did not, that these were separate sparks of genius igniting in isolation. The scientific methods we use to date these sites, while revolutionary, often come with a built-in fog of uncertainty. Radiocarbon dating can provide a range, but that range might span several centuries, a margin of error that makes proving direct, synchronous contact between specific cultures incredibly difficult. A site dated to 3,500 years ago in the Mediterranean and another dated to 3,000 years ago in South America could, within these dating windows, have been briefly contemporary, or they could have been separated by dozens of generations. This chronological haze is a legitimate and formidable challenge, yet this perspective relies on a modern, linear view of time and knowledge transfer. What if the blueprint was not a single set of architectural plans carried by one group of travelers, but a living body of knowledge, a tradition? This is not about a single voyage, but about a sustained school of thought. Imagine a core set of principles, a sacred science of stone and stars, being passed down through an unbroken chain of oral tradition. Master builders would have taken on apprentices, teaching them the secrets of celestial alignment, the geometric principles of polygonal masonry, and the lore of the ancestral sites. This knowledge could have been preserved in song, story, and ritual practice, a carefully guarded inheritance transmitted from one generation to the next for hundreds, even thousands of years. A tradition that began at a place like Göbekli Tepe could have been maintained by a lineage of keepers, its principles applied and adapted as people migrated, as new lands were settled, and as new stones were raised. The chronological gaps between the oldest and youngest sites then transform from an impossible barrier into the natural lifespan of an idea. This was not a fleeting fashion, but a foundational worldview so powerful and so effective that it persisted across the rise and fall of countless individual civilizations. The true timeline we are tracing may not be of construction dates, but of the endurance of a forgotten science, a whisper that refused to be silenced by the passing of centuries. The very stones these monuments are made of carry their own secret history. Each block of granite, each slab of basalt, holds a geological fingerprint, a unique signature that reveals its precise point of origin. By reading these signatures, we can trace incredible journeys across ancient landscapes. The smaller bluestones at Stonehenge, for instance, were transported from the Preseli Hills in Wales, a distance of over 150 miles. The colossal basalt logs of Nan Madol were quarried on the opposite side of the island, then floated across the lagoon on rafts. The fine white limestone casing the Great Pyramid was brought from quarries across the Nile, a massive logistical operation involving thousands of workers and a fleet of boats. These were not random acts of construction. They were deliberate choices, selecting specific stones from specific, often distant, sacred locations. Mapping these material journeys reveals a hidden web of ancient trade and transport routes, pathways etched not on parchment, but in the movement of multi-ton stone. The existence of such sophisticated networks tells us something profound about these societies. It was not enough to simply build with any rock nearby. There was a purpose, a perceived power or necessity in using a particular stone from a particular place. This implies a level of social organization far beyond a single village. It required communication between communities, negotiated access to resources, and a shared, overarching purpose that united people across vast territories. Why go to such extraordinary lengths? The material itself was part of the monument's meaning, its spiritual and symbolic power. The tangible evidence of these long-distance stone journeys provides a physical corridor through which more than just rock could travel. Along these established routes, people moved, ideas were exchanged, and stories were told. If a community could organize the transport of 50-ton stones from a distant quarry, they were certainly capable of sharing the architectural principles that made such a feat worthwhile. The stones, therefore, are more than just silent sentinels. They are the first pieces of evidence in a global puzzle, proving that the ancient world was far more connected and its people far more ambitious than we ever believed. Raising a single multi-ton stone required a society in perfect sync. This was not a weekend project for a few villagers. It was an undertaking that would define a community for generations. To quarry a block of granite weighing as much as 50 elephants demanded more than brute strength. It required geologists who could identify the perfect seam in the rock, engineers who understood the physics of leverage and fracture, and skilled laborers who could painstakingly shape the stone with nothing but harder stone and endless patience. Then came the journey, moving this colossal weight across miles of rugged terrain. This feat alone would have needed road builders, log rollers, and teams of hundreds pulling in unison, directed by a single, unwavering voice. Finally, the act of erection, the careful, dangerous process of standing the stone upright or placing a massive lintel on top, was a ballet of ropes, ramps, and coordinated effort where a single mistake could be catastrophic. This entire monumental process was fueled by a simple yet revolutionary requirement: a surplus of food. For a society to divert so many of its able-bodied members from farming, hunting, or fishing, it first had to master agriculture to a degree that produced a reliable, extra supply of sustenance. This surplus freed people to become specialists, full-time architects, astronomers, and master masons. The recurring ability of cultures worldwide to achieve this identical social miracle, from the windswept plains of northern Europe to the remote islands of the Pacific, is perhaps the most compelling evidence of a shared connection. It suggests that the cargo carried by ancient seafarers was not merely a set of architectural drawings. It was a complete societal operating system, a blueprint for civilization itself. This package included the political structure to command such a project, the economic model to support a specialized labor force, and the spiritual vision powerful enough to motivate thousands of people to work for a goal they themselves would never see completed. The stone itself was the final product, but the true monument was the society that built it. This shared language of stone extended beyond engineering and into the very symbols our ancestors carved into the rock. The circle, a shape with no beginning and no end, appears again and again as a sacred blueprint. From the great rings of stone in Britain to the circular foundations of temples in the Middle East and the ceremonial calendars of the Americas, this form was chosen deliberately. It represents a universal understanding of the eternal cycles that govern existence. The sun is a circle that rises and sets. The moon is a circle that waxes and wanes, and the seasons complete a circular journey year after year. By building in this shape, our ancestors were not just creating a space, they were mirroring the cosmos itself, constructing a physical anchor for the cyclical nature of life, death, and renewal. This was a way of bringing cosmic order down to Earth, a profound statement that humanity was part of a great, unending wheel. The spiral takes this concept of the cycle and gives it motion and depth. Etched onto the entrance stone at Newgrange in Ireland, it greets the winter solstice sun. Woven into the complex knotwork of Andean quipu cords, it recorded stories and accounts. This coiling, turning shape seems to represent a journey inward or outward, a path of spiritual evolution or the swirling energy of creation. It is the pattern of a whirlpool, a galaxy, and an unfurling fern, connecting the vastness of the cosmos to the smallest forms of life. The persistent appearance of these two specific forms, the circle and the spiral, in a monumental context is a silent, visual echo across continents. It suggests that these cultures were not just sharing building techniques, but a core set of spiritual and philosophical ideas. This points to something deeply rooted in the human experience, a shared symbolic vocabulary that arose independently from a common wellspring of human consciousness, or perhaps a vocabulary that was carried and adapted by the first navigators of both sea and soul. What profound, unifying insight into existence was so important that it had to be written in stone over and over for all time? The recurring patterns in stone and star have ignited one of history's most enduring speculations. Could these monuments be the legacy of a single, advanced mother culture, a civilization lost beneath the waves of time? This is the grand theory of a forgotten epoch, popularized by legends of Atlantis or the Pacific continent of Mu. These stories tell of a sophisticated people, master seafarers and builders, who disseminated their knowledge across the globe before their own homeland was consumed by a cataclysmic event. It is a compelling narrative that offers a neat, elegant solution to the mystery of the global blueprint. Yet, within the halls of mainstream archaeology, this idea is met with profound skepticism. The primary objection is a stark one, a complete absence of concrete evidence. No submerged cities, no definitive artifacts, no geological record of a large landmass sinking in the manner described by Plato have ever been found. The entire theory rests on interpreting the similarities we see as proof of a common source, rather than independent invention. So why does this idea persist with such power? Perhaps because it serves as a potent metaphor for a genuine truth. We know that the end of the last ice age, around 12,000 years ago, was a period of dramatic environmental change. Vast ice sheets melted, and global sea levels rose by hundreds of feet, flooding coastal areas worldwide. What if the megalithic phenomenon did not originate from a single, mythical super-civilization, but from a network of interconnected coastal societies? Their home bases, their trading ports, and their earliest monuments would now lie submerged on continental shelves, hidden beneath the very waters that once connected them. This is not about finding the streets of Atlantis, but about acknowledging that a significant chapter of the human story may be lying on the ocean floor, irrevocably lost to us. The lost civilization theory, for all its speculative nature, performs a vital service. It challenges the rigid timelines of our past and dares us to ask a humbling question. How much of our own origin story have we simply missed because the evidence is buried under millennia of silt and 100 meters of sea? These ancient puzzles are now meeting their match in the tools of modern science. Archaeoastronomy, a field that marries archaeology with the study of the stars, is using powerful software to turn back the celestial clock. By reconstructing the night sky as it appeared thousands of years ago, researchers can calculate the precise alignments of monuments with a degree of accuracy that was once impossible. This digital time travel is revealing alignments that are too subtle or complex to be coincidental, uncovering ever deeper layers of intentionality in the placement of these stones. We are discovering that a single site might track not just the solstice sun, but also the cyclical dance of specific stars or the moon's most extreme standstills, events that occur only once every 18.6 years. This is not general sky watching. It is a highly specific mathematical language written in architecture, and it appears to be a language spoken by builders across the globe. While archaeoastronomy decodes the heavens, another revolutionary technology is peeling back the Earth itself. LiDAR, which stands for light detection and ranging, works by firing millions of laser pulses from an aircraft down through dense forest canopies. These pulses bounce back, creating a highly detailed, three-dimensional map of the ground surface hidden below. It is like giving the landscape an X-ray, and what it is revealing is transforming our understanding of the ancient world. In the lush jungles of Central America, LiDAR has exposed vast, interconnected networks of causeways, reservoirs, and ceremonial centers, showing that Maya cities were far larger and more complex than we ever knew. In the Amazon, it has uncovered enormous geometric earthworks and settled communities that rewrite the narrative of the rainforest as a pristine wilderness. Each new sweep of the laser is dramatically expanding the known footprint of these cultures, suggesting that the isolated monuments we have long studied were not lonely outposts, but part of a much wider, densely populated, and likely interconnected world. What we have seen so far, the Stonehenges and the Tiwanakus, may be just the visible tip of a colossal, hidden iceberg. These scientific tools are not just answering old questions, they are revealing a planet crisscrossed with the footprints of our ancestors, a world where the distance between cultures may have been far shorter than our history books ever assumed. Yet a powerful and necessary voice of caution urges us to reconsider. The academic consensus, built upon decades of rigorous excavation and analysis, leans heavily toward a different explanation, one of convergent cultural evolution. From this perspective, the similarities we find so enchanting are not proof of a shared blueprint, but are instead the natural result of isolated human minds facing identical fundamental challenges. Think of it like this: cultures across the globe, seeking to build something permanent and meaningful, would naturally gravitate toward the most durable material available, stone. The immense size of these stones was not just for show, it was a practical solution for creating structures meant to last for eternity, to withstand the elements and the passage of generations. Critics rightly highlight the profound differences that exist alongside the similarities. The specific artistic styles, the precise religious functions, and the vast chronological gaps between sites create a mosaic of distinct cultural expressions, not a monolith of identical thought. The classic Maya pyramid, with its steep steps and summit temple, served a vastly different ceremonial purpose than the smooth-sided Egyptian pyramid, designed as a royal tomb. These are not minor variations, they are foundational differences in worldview and practice. The skeptical viewpoint acts as a crucial anchor, a reminder that extraordinary claims of ancient global voyagers require an equally extraordinary standard of proof. To date, that definitive, irrefutable evidence, a shared artifact or an inscribed map detailing a transoceanic route, remains elusive. This does not dismiss the mystery, but rather reframes it, asking us to consider an equally profound possibility. Could the true connection be not a shared teacher, but a shared human genius, an innate capacity for innovation that sparked again and again, lighting similar fires of monumental achievement on every continent? So where does this mountain of evidence finally lead us, stranded between the undeniable genius of independent cultures and the haunting echoes of a shared blueprint. Perhaps the answer is not a choice between two extremes, but a path that walks directly through the middle. A new model for prehistory is emerging, one that sees our ancient world not as a collection of isolated islands, but as a constellation of brilliant fires. In this view, multiple centers of innovation burned brightly across the globe, each one a unique culture mastering its own landscape and developing its own traditions. But every so often, a spark would leap from one fire to another. This is the concept of punctuated diffusion, where long-distance contact was not a constant highway of traffic, but a series of rare, profound, and world-altering encounters. Imagine a Polynesian voyaging canoe blown off its intended course, making landfall on the coast of South America. The meeting of these two cultures would have been a monumental event, a sharing of knowledge that would have seemed almost divine. The visitors might have shared their advanced understanding of celestial navigation, of how to read the star paths across the open ocean. In return, they might have learned new principles of monumental stonework, or received the gift of the sweet potato, a crop that would go on to transform their society back home. These were not invasions or colonizations, but brief, intense exchanges of ideas between equals. The core knowledge of astronomy, mathematics, and large-scale construction could have been the most valuable cargo, a kind of intellectual seed. Once planted in a new culture, this seed would not grow into an identical copy. It would adapt, it would reinvent itself. The local master builders would take these universal principles and apply them to their own unique stones, their own sacred mountains, and their own stories of the gods. This is why a Scottish stone circle feels so different from a Polynesian mare, yet both align to the solstice sun. It explains why the polygonal masonry of Peru and Japan looks so similar in principle, yet is executed in distinct local styles. This hybrid model does not diminish the accomplishment of any culture. Instead, it enriches it. It suggests that our ancestors were both brilliant inventors and eager learners, capable of creating their own wonders while still being open to a world-changing idea from across the sea. It paints a picture of a sporadically connected planet where the most profound human knowledge was never truly lost, but was carried on, whispered from one shore to another, ensuring that the fire of discovery never went out. Our journey across continents and millennia brings us to a profound crossroads of understanding. We have walked among the silent rings of Stonehenge, felt the subterranean resonance of the Hypogeum, and marveled at the crystalline geometry of Nan Madol. These monuments, separated by oceans and centuries, speak a startlingly similar architectural language. The question of how this knowledge spread is not a simple puzzle with a single missing piece. It is a grand mosaic where the brilliance of independent human genius shines just as brightly as the possibility of ancient, long-distance connections. The stones do not force us to choose one story over the other. Instead, they invite us to embrace a more complex and wondrous vision of our shared past. This is not a mystery that diminishes the achievements of any culture. Whether through parallel invention or punctuated encounters across the sea, each society demonstrated a breathtaking capacity to dream in stone, to organize on a colossal scale, and to seek harmony with the universe. They transformed their landscapes into cosmic clocks and their beliefs into eternal architecture. The true legacy of these megalithic builders is not a definitive answer, but an enduring question that pushes us to look deeper. Every new technological advancement, from LiDAR scans to refined genetic analysis, adds another layer to this ancient story, revealing a prehistory that was far more dynamic and interconnected than we ever supposed. We may never have all the answers, but the pursuit itself reminds us of our shared humanity, our universal drive to build, to explore, and to leave a message for the future carved in the most permanent material our ancestors could find. The conversation is far from over. We would love to hear your own thoughts and theories in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this journey to the edges of history, subscribe for more explorations into the world's greatest enduring puzzles.